Vandeham Sri Guru.
Anyone need Chinese translation? I mean, even if I ask in English, how would you know? Right? You're from here?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Jin.
Jin. You're a student here?
Yes.
How long have you been a student?
1.5 months.
1.5 months. Where are you from?
China, Beijing.
Beijing.
Oh, me too.
She's from Beijing. Yeah. Okay, you're from? Okay, this is Jin Jin, right? Did I say it right? Okay, so she's going to translate into Chinese back there for you guys. Is that all right?
If you speak English, I can like that.
Okay, I do
Okay.
speak fast, but that's up to you. Completely fine. English is fine. How about you? English is fine. Fantastic. That's great. Wait till you hear me speak. And then the others, first timers. Your name, please?
My name is Caleb. Caleb.
Caleb.
Leb.
Leb.
Yes.
All right. Sorry.
I'm from Florida.
Florida. Right. Nice to meet you. And there's some new face in here.
My name is Arun.
Arvind.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Arvind. What are you doing
Chennai.
here? You're from Shanghai too?
Chennai.
I know. Chennai. What are you doing here? Studying what?
Masters in Biology.
Okay. What about you?
Anusha from Chennai. Yeah. Doing my master's in biology.
It's nice to meet you. I met you earlier.
Continue.
Yeah, and your name again?
Dharanya. Dharanya.
Dharanya. Okay. Some other first timers.
Sri Harsha
Sri Harsha.
from Andhra Pradesh, Hyderabad.
So what I'm going to present to you, I have never presented this slideshow. So as you're seeing it first time, I'm seeing it probably second time. I haven't studied it. I have not made this. But it has a few things that will make a nice discussion. So we'll see how it goes. How many believe in God? And the others are what? Agnostic or not sure or don't believe or concept?
I just think, I mean, to me personally, I think it's irrelevant whether God exists, and
Okay.
it's just something not to worry about.
Okay. All right. Others? I mean, there's probably one other person who will be crazy. I heard in China that there is either the word or concept doesn't exist. Is that true?
Yes. The different religions. There are some.
Very few people who are religious, or there are people who are religious.
No, people say that they have no belief, but actually they believe a mixture of different religions.
Ah,
Some of them believe Buddha.
some of them
Yes.
believe in Buddha.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, your name one more time, please.
Caleb.
Caleb. Spell it for me.
IT.
He's pulling my leg.
No. K-A-L-E-B.
He caught me.
Spell it.
I got it. That was fast. Spell your name for me, please. Y-O-U-Nada.
K-A-L-E-B.
K-L-E-B. Before you came here, past weeks, we've been talking about why this topic is relevant. So I don't think I'm going to summarize about 4 weeks worth of stuff. So I'm just going to move from here and let's see, somewhere we'll try to find a point of convergence. Yeah. To connect from last week, we've been speaking about two realms of existence. One realm of existence is the relative realm. That's the existence that we are familiar with. Everything's relative here. And then there is an absolute realm that is not within our capacity yet to access, understand, etc. Because what we use right now are relative instruments. So we went into details of what those relative instruments are. Remember? The five senses, the mind, the intelligence, etc. We talked about these instruments are designed for us to access and understand the relative realm and operate within the relative realm, and that too within limitations. Okay. Then we talked about how our senses have four limitations. First is that we can come under illusion. We can accept something that's not as something that is. Because we can come under illusion, the tendency that we make a mistake. And our senses are limited. We talked about how our vision is limited. Right? There is only the visible spectrum of light, otherwise we cannot see. Even within visible spectrum of light, we need corrections called spectacles. Even with corrections, even with that, there are certain things we cannot see beyond. We cannot see in the other room. We cannot see in a dark room. We need light. So our senses are relative in that sense. And the fourth is we have a tendency to, it's called cheat. Cheat means accept something with conviction what's not there. We look at something and we say, I am very sure that's what I saw. I'm very sure that's what I heard. Or we use our mind and intelligence to come out with certain cause and effect relationships. Right? We may not see the cause, but from the effect I deduce some cause. We talked about smoke. If I were to see smoke from that building, I might assume that there is fire. I have a sense of cause and effect. But every time I have a sense of cause and effect, it's not necessary that I'm understanding the right cause. We talked about a few commercials, just funny ones, just to give us an idea of how we can misinterpret what the cause is just by looking at the effect. So in that sense, our mind, intelligence, senses are limited. Then we said how we use them. That's the ascending system of knowledge. Then we talked about a whole different paradigm last week. So you should check out our videos, right, on our VBS website. We've been talking about this for the past 4 or 5 weeks, so it'll be nice to catch up. We talked about the descending system of knowledge. Descending system of knowledge is from a source that is not subject to these defects. That's on the platform of the soul. We talked about the soul as eternal, cognizant, and blissful. And then there's a source. We talked about the source. How knowledge from that source coming in a descending fashion is the absolute knowledge. And how people within the relative realm can access absolute knowledge. We talked about certain qualities. I remember writing here. Do you remember what those qualities were, for example? Humility. Something else. Tolerance.
Inquisitiveness.
Inquisitiveness. But there was a very important
Gratitude.
one. Gratitude. What did you say? Prideless. Gratitude. Not just thank you like gratitude, but we talked about what that gratitude looks like. And who the source is, how knowledge gets passed on from one generation to another generation. The absolute knowledge gets passed on. And when there is the absence of true character, although it may be that we are receiving the true knowledge, it doesn't stay with us. It slips away. That's how knowledge is. Right? So I'm just summarizing for you. Therefore, we said that we should know if we are to follow the descending system of knowledge, what the source is. In this relative realm, everything that we think of as a source has a source, therefore it's relative. My source, I came from my parents, but they are not the ultimate source. They have parents, and they have parents, and they have parents, like that. Or anything in this world, the cell phone came from BlackBerry, but where BlackBerry got all the materials from, another supplier. This supplier got from somewhere else, got from some. So there is a source from which all the elements come that are put together to make a phone. That source, so we'll talk about that source for a moment. Okay? So that's the setup for this discussion. Like I said, I haven't seen this presented, so please bear with me as we go through this, because there are some things that I may skip or just run through. Can you sit here and hit the button if you don't mind? Would that be too demeaning to you? So primarily, our source of knowledge is from the Bhagavad Gita and a text called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be like the summary study or the essence of all Vedic literature. Keep going. If you sit down, I'll figure it out. What do you do? It's all black. All right. Keep going, Avila. That's it. That's it. So there are many definitions, or there are vagueness about the idea of God. Some think of God as some energetic something, some cosmic power something, some abstract something, some you use the word higher power, something. So generally people's understanding of this topic is a little vague at best. Or they have very boxed in idea of God. For example, someone that this vague, hazy thing that I pray to whenever I want something. I have prayers, I offer some prayers. Some people have the idea that this is a man-made concept. And with man-made concept, some persons sitting in a church or someplace came up with this idea, and they came up with certain rules. If you do like this, then this will happen. It instilled fear in people's hearts, and it was a nice way to control people. Some people feel like that as well. Okay, so there are many ideas. We're talking from the Vedic view, what the Vedas have to say. Okay. This is not about what is our individual opinion, because if there are 30 people here, we can have about 60 versions of it. We're not talking individuals here. We're not talking perspectives here. We're talking Vedas, which we talked originally as the absolute source of knowledge. What is the Vedas? How do the Vedas view? What's the definition Vedas give? Okay, so be with me as we go through that. So first is the cause of all causes and the ultimate source of everything that exists. Cause of all causes. Whatever we see that has a cause is caused by that source. Source of everything that exists, both in the relative realm and in the absolute realm. This is supreme controller. It's like a dictator almost. Go ahead, next one. Supreme proprietor. And enjoy it. Okay. So, I'll try to use relative world examples to try the point. I was going to say, does anyone have money here? But that example with students doesn't work usually. We don't have so much money. But assuming, let's say I worked someplace and I got some money. Okay. Now, you see the $100 bill in my hand, and someone were to ask you, who does that money belong to? What would you say? To me. Okay, because I'm the one who, I guess, worked for it. And now it doesn't mean just because you saw the $100 bill in my hand that you can take it. That would be called extortion. So, since I'm the source of it, I'm the one who's controlling the money. I decide how I want to spend it. True? Correct. I am also the proprietor because I own that $100. And actually I'm the enjoyer because I'm spending it for my enjoyment. Right? So, the terms controller, proprietor, and enjoyer apply to the source, naturally. So if I'm the source of something, then I'm the controller, proprietor, and enjoyer of it. So this idea of God, the source of everything, naturally then is the controller, proprietor, and enjoyer of everything that exists, because he's the source. We, in this relative realm, pick things and try to make ours. Yeah, I take natural resources from my country. So I've decided that this is my country. I've drawn a border and I've decided this is my country. But really borders don't exist. It's two people deciding, or two countries deciding what the border looks like. And if there are certain two countries, even 60 years later, they can't decide where the border is. Right? They're still fighting every day. They try to nudge the border a little on that side. Then these guys will fight and nudge the border a little on this side. So the map keeps changing. Actually, there are no borders. They're defined. But however, we say, this is mine. I'm the controller, proprietor, and enjoyer of the resources of which what I call is mine. So this idea of mine, like that, has a source too. So that's what it means. Below, next slide. Okay, so, whoa, look at that. So there's government. Okay, there is a person at the top. Here it says president, and then there are different ministries at the federal level, state level, the county level, and the city level. That's my house. Here whoa. Great, fantastic. Okay. So, hey, what's he doing? I like to see my house. Okay. Think of it as a big government, if you will. If you don't like the word government, pick another word. Okay. But it's government. The reason we say government, because there is the word government, means that there is certain laws that are operating. There is certain order. There is certain laws that have been set up, etc. Therefore, government. Now, I'm not asking for your individual political views, whether you like government or not. We can have that conversation at lunch. But right now, think of it as government in the sense of organized. So, in this universal government, there is a defense ministry. And that defense ministry is like the ozone layer, the immune system, etc. Like we have protection systems. Each of us has a protection system. What's yours?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't have a protection system. For example, certain animals have fangs. Certain animals have speed. Okay, the human being has certain intellectual capacity to build defenses. Okay. So within nature, the defense mechanism exists. Then there is finance ministry. The supply on this planet of gold, silver, metal, different precious metals and stones in terms of ore. It's already there. And there is power supply. Sun, moon, wind, water, solar energy, etc. This Then there is the health ministry, like in the knowledge of Ayurveda or any other medicinal branches. Educational ministry. Vedas are books of knowledge from the varieties of religions around. Where it says domestic supply, rain, grains, fruit. There's ample of that as well on the planet. I'll ask you a question later, something to think about. Is there scarcity of food on the earth planet? Okay, something to think about. Then there is hygiene and sanitation, rainfall, trees, oxygen recycling, sunlight. Like you see the change of weather right now. Before you came 1.5 months ago, IIT was nice and lush and green. Now it's red and yellow and brown and different colors. And after a few months, that smile will go away and it's going to be cold like anything. It's all going to be fairly white and gray and dull. Not just inside IIT, but outside as well. That's right, okay. And then there are rewards. There is some rewards. It's all the theory of karma, and one time we'll get into karmic theory. Certain people have certain good-looking bodies, some people don't have some good-looking bodies, some people have intelligence, certain capacities, some people have lesser manifestation of it, etc. So if in that sense, governmentally organized. Next one. So go ahead. So the Vedas do not have a mechanistic view. Modern science has a mechanistic view of things. Yeah? Mechanistic view is this, very simply put, that the entire cosmic world around us is operating on certain laws. That's it. Okay? And these laws have certain characteristics. We don't know who made the laws. We don't care who made the laws, like he was saying. We don't care. It's not relevant. Our research is to understand how these laws are operating at a micro level. So our friends in biology. And then there are laws and certain phenomena occurring at a cosmic level. And we make ourselves busy studying anywhere in between from this end to that end. We don't care where it all came from. That's a mechanistic view. The Vedas don't have a mechanistic view. It's a non-mechanistic view. Not only are we interested in how it all came, how it is right now, but where it came about, who put it together. For example, we're going to have lunch later. Some people don't care who put it together. We just are glad to eat whatever is there. We're either glad or not glad. We like it or we don't like it. Some people will ask, who cooked it? Please thank the cook. We go to someone's house as a guest. They set up a nice dinner at their table. Some people will eat it. Some people don't even bother about it. Some people will eat it. They won't thank the host. Some will say, oh, thank you for such a nice meal. You understand? Yes. At finer levels, it's important to know where it came from, who put it together. Because we want to express, we use the word gratitude, we want to express our gratitude because somehow we have been benefited. Okay? So like that in this realm, in this world, we are benefiting constantly. There is ample light, air, food supply. We have a very nice machine that's being operated. Whatever we eat, somehow it processes everything, gives us nourishment. It's a whole system working. It's very complicated. And this system is not like a man-made machine. Somehow nature made it, we say. But who's operating nature? Just because the car is working, it has fantastic engineering in it. The whole concept of chemistry, thermodynamics, electricity, electrical engineering, everything, mechanical engineering, everything's working perfectly well. But we don't say, we don't just accept that it happened on its own. There's some designer, some engineer who put it together, right? So the Vedic view is, if we are benefiting from something, then it's important to know who is benefiting us. That's common sense in one sense, okay? So therefore, who is behind this? One of the common things that the Vedas talk about is, if there is organization, then there must be an organizer. You gotta go? Okay. Thank you for joining us.
I do too, actually.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. If there is organization, that means there is organizer. When we came into this room, all the tables and chairs were in a particular order. Does any one of us assume that between whenever IIT was put together and now, this tables and chairs just came together on their own?
No.
They didn't come together, someone put it together. What is the probability that if I were to take a wristwatch, every part I separate out, throw it up in the air, and that they will all form into a perfect wristwatch, working condition? I can do it about how many times? 1 billion times. Will it all put together? Some people say maybe, then we should give them that assignment. So organization means organizer. Go ahead, Abella. Alright, now we're going to get into a little Srimad Bhagavatam. Don't worry about the Sanskrit part and all that. We'll talk in English. Now this is a mixture of the great work of Michelangelo on the background. God is touching the first human, I guess. That's not what we ascribe to them. Someone put that picture together. You know Michelangelo's painting, right? Anyone not know this one? Is the painting? Okay. There's you've heard the name of a painter called Michelangelo? No. There was a painter called Michelangelo. He was in Italy. And in the Vatican, he was asked to paint something about God. I mean, there's a history of Michelangelo. Anyway, so he spent many months doing something behind closed doors. So after when he finished, he opened the door and there was this painting on the ceiling of a bearded old man reaching his finger out and a young man trying to touch that finger. The idea of God and man in clouds and all that. Anyway, the idea is, it says, the Bhagavatam says, that those who are learned in the absolute realm, they understand that source of everything to be in 3 different aspects. The first is called Brahman. Brahman means the all-pervading, all-existing. We use the word omnipresent. That's the aspect of God. Paramatma is the localized aspect. While he is omnipresent, he is also present with us. And the third is the Bhagavan aspect. That is, while all that is true, he has his own individuality. Now that doesn't apply to us. For example, anyone who here is all-pervading? We're not. We're not all-pervading. We're very localized. We're in this room, which means we're not in another room. And we cannot understand or perceive the pains and pleasures, the happiness and the distress of others. Your name again? Arvind. Anusha. If we were to prick Anusha with a pin, Arvind would not know, Ramya would not know what that pain feels like. The only thing we can do is relate to it if we ever had been pricked by a pin. I know what that feels like. But that experience that you are going through, we cannot go through. Right? Because we don't have that capacity. Alright, next one please. The Brahman is that omnipresent aspect. Next one. Yeah, hold on. Did you jump through? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Next one. Okay. This is from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9. Text 4. Any Bhagavad Gita experts here? Anyone has read the Bhagavad Gita ever? Anyone touched the Bhagavad Gita? Read through it. Which part?
It was just like with our, it was our syllabus we had. So it's,
Oh. Anyone recite a shloka from Bhagavad Gita ever?
yeah, for the competition.
Competition. I used to go for the competition too. Which chapter did you compete for?
I don't remember, it was in 4th standard.
Oh,
I got the 3rd place.
yeah. Third place. Okay. I went for a Bhagavad Gita competition when I was in 4th grade. Other than that, any other one or two famous verses from B.R. Chopra's Mahabharata or something? Paritranaya sadhuna, something. Anyway, the Bhagavad Gita is our main source of knowledge. Anyway, so in this Krishna says, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyaktamurtina. That I pervade this entire cosmic existence in my unmanifest form. It's the impersonal aspect called Brahman. It is the idea of our existence. When we say I am, that's where this comes from. Generally we say awareness of I am, that I exist. Each one of us is aware that we exist. That awareness is sourced from this impersonal concept or aspect of God called Brahman. Okay? Next one. Keep going. And then there is a Paramatma within each one of us that resides and guides every soul, regardless of what body the soul is in. Like for example, do we get what sometimes we call it inner voice, sometimes we call it intuition, sometimes we call it conscience, something. Any one of us have that experience? Sure. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the role Paramatma plays is Upadrashta. Upadrashta means witness. Is observing. And Anumanta is sanctioning. Now, to do anything, we need a sanction. For example, here is a computer, right? There is a monitor, there is a keyboard, and there is a CPU. Right? There is an input device, there is an output device, and a processor. Basically, that's a computer. Now, the way we operate is, I want something. I would like to do something. Correct? That's my input. I want to get up from here and walk there. I want to speak something. I want to close my eyes. I want to turn my head. Whatever. It's just something that we either cognitively think about or subconsciously do. True? Think of it as an input. For the output to happen, what has to go on? The CPU has to process. True? So like that, the Paramatma exists within each of us as the CPU, along with the soul. So I may have an input. I want to do this. Unless that is sanctioned, I cannot do that activity. So that's the Anumanta. Let me finish the thought. Now, what we experience is that there is a law of karma operating. So just because I desire something, it's not necessary that I will get it. For example, I desire $1 million. The CPU will say, good luck. Or, sorry. I also have to deserve it. How I deserve it depends on my previous karmic stockpile. So sometime in the course of this semester, we'll get into karmic theory as well. So Upadrashta Anumanta. Yeah. What were we going to say?
You said that the Paramatma has to permit every action,
Yeah, sanction.
sanction. So this is a good and a bad action.
Everything. Everything is permitted. Everything is permitted in the sense that Upadrashta is the neutral supervisor. Because, anyway, we'll get into karma later. There's a neutral supervisor. For example, if I want to write a 4-letter word on my computer, starting with an F, and I type it, will the CPU say, not allowed. Mommy said you cannot type that. The processor will process and put it up on the monitor. I can say thank you, and that will also be put up. So in that sense, it's neutral. Got it? Okay. Next one. Okay, so if he is existing everywhere and is also within every heart, what does he look like? Does he have his own individual existence? Does he lose his identity? For example, sometimes a standard example is given. I don't have, but suppose I have a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11 sheet. I tear it into whatever, 64 different pieces. Correct? And I scatter it everywhere. Is the original paper there? No. The answer is yes or no. No.
No.
Who said yes? Okay. Anyone else? You want to anywhere in between yes and no?
Yes.
Yo.
Yes. Yes.
Yes in one sense and no in another sense. So does that apply to God, that is everywhere in every living entity? That means the original sheet of paper got into little pieces, and so the original 8.5 by 11 is not there? No. So it says Matsthani Sarvabhu, I am in everyone, but I am not in them. Meaning simultaneously true, both statements are true. So the Isha Upanishad gives the example of 1 minus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is also 1. That means the original source is inexhaustible. In Sanskrit the word is avyayam. Inexhaustible. Whatever source can keep coming. But the original nature does not change, even by slight amount. Now we say, suppose I draw a bucket of water from the ocean. Has it made any difference to the ocean? The answer is yes. It's one bucket less. That does not apply to, in statistical sense, it doesn't make any difference. But in absolute sense, it does. But for the source, when Krishna says, everything comes from me, there is absolutely no change in the source of any kind. Any of us ever heard the Vedic mantra, Om Purnamadav Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamudachyate? This is what it means. That from that complete source, many complete units emanate. Complete units is each universe, each of us is complete in one sense, right? Emanate, yet the source remains complete. Purnasya Purnam Adaya, even before everything is complete. After all is also complete. Next one. So he retains his individuality. That means all these three aspects exist simultaneously. All pervaded, omnipresent, omniscient. Right? We discuss how we are not omniscient. I don't know what's happening in your mind right now. Except from your faces I get some idea. But I can't tell. So my omniscience is not there. I'm omniscient about my body. Even if there's a little pinprick on my pinky, I know, I can sense it. In that sense, I'm omniscient as far as this body is concerned. But I'm not omniscient as soon as it's an experience outside my body. But the Paramatma is omniscient of everything, everywhere, yet remains as an individual. So that's Bhagavan as an individual, as the source, everything's coming from him, yet as a person. It's his individual identity defined in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. The Bhagavad Gita is spoken in first person singular. That means I, the person. Go ahead. Okay, the diacritics are a little messed up. Bhagavad Gita declares.
I didn't think it.
Okay. In the Bhagavad Gita, whoa, slow down. Okay. So in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, it says, Prakritani Swam Avastapya. I am the one who brings forth whole of the material energy. Visrujami. Visrujami means to sruja. Sruja means to be born. Visrujami means confirmedly born. Puna puna, again and again. Bhutagrama mimam. Bhutagrama means all other living entities as well. Because there's nature and living entities within nature. Avasham Prakriti Vasha is coming from me. So there is the sense of creator. Krishna speaking, I am the creator of the entire material cosmic energy. Next one. Okay. So just as lawmaker governs the laws, right? I make certain laws and I govern it. Similarly, this material energy is governed by certain laws. You want to tell me some of the laws that the material energy works under?
Gravity.
Okay. I don't know sign language. Say something.
Sun.
Day and night.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a change of season. It happens in order. It's not that suddenly after fall we don't like it. It should be spring immediately. Whether we like it or not, winter needs to set in. And then spring. Then summer. Always this order. Never changed.
Food cycle.
The laws of time. Huh?
Food cycle.
Food cycle. Food cycle.
I mean, food chain.
Food chain. This is the USDA made.
No, not food chain.
Food chain like the
Yeah,
the ones that don't have legs are eaten by the four-legged, the two-legged. Like,
Right.
okay. The natural laws of time. Time operates by certain laws, right? Okay. Etc. The laws of nature that govern the body, etc. So these laws exist because some lawmaker made them. It was designed like that. Go ahead, Avello. All right, keep going. Keep going. Wow. This needs a little work because I'm not used to having slides that have a lot of words in it.
Is this that?
Yeah, it's okay to me. I have no problem. So the idea of creator, proprietor, and enjoyer. So in the Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, end of 5th chapter, Krishna says, Bhoktaram yagyatapasam, sarvaloka maheshwaram, suhridam sarvabhutanam, gyatva mam shantim richati. That I am the proprietor and actual enjoyer of everything, because I'm the source of everything. And he says, one who knows this, gyatva mam, one who knows me, shantim, attains actual peace. That means one who's not peaceful has some problem with one of these three aspects. Has a problem understanding who's the controller of things. So when in our life things happen beyond our control, we become unhappy, we become restless. Then the idea is to understand that there is another controller somewhere. You understand? We try to enjoy something that's not belonging to us, then also our mind is restless. Correct? So, classical example is Ravana. It's the story of Ramayana. Ever heard the word Ramayana? Ravana. Others know, right? Ravana. Ravana was restless because he had Sita who does not belong to him. So it's said that in this world, the persons who don't understand who the source is are mini Ravanas. And the idea is to exploit. We exploit material energy for our needs. And that is one of the reasons why we are restless. Because this energy is not belonging to us. But it's not for our exploitation. For example, if I'm walking on the street and I find a wallet that has cash in it, enough to pay my tuition, what would you do? Be truthful. Thank God. Wow, that's very nice. Thank you for fulfilling my prayers. That's one mentality. I find something, I keep it. Finders, keepers. Another mentality is, it's not mine. I'm not going to touch it. We think of that as noble. In fact, it is noble. Or nobler. Then there is actual nobility. Is to take the wallet and
Find the
turn it in. Find the real owner and give it back. This is called detachment. The second one, oh, it's not mine, is not complete detachment. Because if I leave it, next guy can come and take it. And if I keep it, then that's exploitation. So when the Vedas talk about detachment, generally we think to reject everything. That's why, especially if you're coming from India and you tell your parents, I'm attending Bhagavad Gita class, they become very alarmed. They're alarmed that you might drop out of IIT. They're alarmed that suddenly, from all the colorful dresses you're wearing, you might wear a saffron and walk around like a monk or something. Monkey doesn't become monk so easily. It takes time. But they might be worried, oh, you become a monk. Because the sense of detachment is something that we very quickly think, not for me. I should drop everything. The real detachment is to take everything and use it in relation to the source or return it to the source. This is called the real yoga. Okay, so what we are trying to share here is how to be able to do that, which we're coming to. This world is not meant for our exploitation, not meant for our exploiting. It's meant to be taken for service. We said gratitude, remember? So for us to express our gratitude, we need the resources. So nature's provided us those resources to take and use in service to the source. So I said monkey and we sort of laughed, but that's what Hanuman did. Went back, found Sita and wanted to bring Sita back to Ram. That's the essence of what we're trying to do. Versus exploitation. Oh, excellent. Keep going. Nice. Whoa. Wow, that was fast. Okay, so in the Brahma Samhita, so we talked about descending knowledge. The knowledge descends originally from Brahma down, because Brahma is the original created person within this universe. And according to Brahma Samhita, he says, he describes Krishna as the source of everything. And he says, Sarva Karana Karana. Karana means cause. Sarva Karana Karana, cause of all cause. So anything that's happening, anything that is caused by Krishna. Okay, go on. So again, there are different references from the Bhagavad Gita of Krishna describing he as the source. Mattav parataram nanya kinchidasti dhananjaya. And he uses the phrase as a thread that holds different pearls together. It's a very nice example, right? When you see a pearl necklace, most people are enchanted by the pearls. But what makes it a beautiful necklace is the string within. If there is no string, the beauty of the pearl is not really fully realized. So like that, in this material world, we see all these fantastic phenomena going on. But there is a thread that actually is putting everything together. Like Krishna describes, I am that thread that puts everything together. On me, everything is sustaining, just as pearls are sustained on a string. Okay, go on. So, Krishna has certain secondary and primary aspects. Secondary aspects are things that describe his majesty, like the grandiose of things. Omnipresent, omniscient, supreme proprietor, supreme enjoyer. Generally we think of God as this very great person. If you have to imagine, just based on those aspects, if I were to ask you to draw a mental picture or an actual picture, this really grand person, right? That's just the idea that comes to mind. The other side is the sweet side. And the idea is generally, especially people coming from Eastern cultures or even Western cultures a little bit, use the idea of God-fearing person. Right? The man was a God-fearing person. So the word God-fearing implies that a person did do something or did not do something because they were afraid of the consequences. Like we do. If you do something like this, something will go wrong. Therefore I should not do. If I do something like this, everything will go nicely for me. Therefore I should do. That's not the purpose of life, to be a God-fearing person. We like to use the phrase God-loving person. Because although he is the supreme creator, supreme proprietor, and all of that, there is the personal aspect that he is the dear friend of everyone. He is the most lovable person. And Krishna plays many roles with everyone. He plays the role of a lover, he plays the role of a child, he plays the role of a friend, he plays the role of a master, he plays the role of someone neutral. So as a person, he's inviting us through the Bhagavad Gita to have individual relationship. So God is not just this very distant academic subject. He's very much a person that each one of us can have a relationship with. That's the whole idea in why he speaks the Bhagavad Gita in a particular way. Yes, next one. Okay, I'm not getting to get to polytheism. Let's see if there are any questions. Maybe next week we can talk of polytheism. Yes. Hit the skip. Okay. Questions, comments, Ramya? We flip the lights on, please. Let there be light.
Sanctions to all desires when it is below that. So is there any desires for Paramatma which he wants to be fulfilled by us? And how can we know that?
Are there any desires of the Paramatma? Yeah. The Paramatma would like us to have friendship with him. And so he speaks through the Bhagavad Gita and other texts to remind us from outside. Although he's reminding us from within, our receiver is not tuned in. So it says that the Paramatma appears externally as Shastra or scripture or Vedic Vedas, as Guru, and as the sadhus, as other personalities, saintly persons who remind us about these things. But the Paramatma never forces anything. Because if he were to force, then he loses his neutrality. For example, a high court judge. Okay. Suppose he is trying the case of someone who's in jail for murder. And he will look at the case, he will look at all the evidence, and he will make his sentence. Right? And he will say, for life, in jail for life. Personally, would you want to see someone in jail like that? No. Because personally he might think, you can do good in life, why are you doing this? But as a judge, he cannot say, I'll let you go, do good in life. He has to, right? He has to pronounce his judgment according to what's going on. So Paramatma is like that. Very neutral.
So is there any law behind that? Is there any law?
That's the role.
Law.
I know. The role he plays, there's no law. He's the maker of the law. The role he plays is of neutrality. And for him, he doesn't like someone or dislike someone. He's equal to everyone. All he does is supervise the material energy.
You told the judge has to follow the laws
Correct.
and rules, even though he likes to make the person in the right path.
That is correct.
But
Because
still-
within this relative realm, he allows for the relative laws to work.
Yeah, that's
Because he has created those laws for this relative realm, and he lets them work. Something else.
What is the connection between our intelligence and Paramatma?
Very good question. Very good question. What is the connection between our intelligence and the Paramatma? Our intelligence is sourced from the Paramatma. So in the Bhagavad Gita he says, Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. That from me comes memory or remembrance, jnanam, knowledge or intelligence, and apohanam, forgetfulness. Okay? So our intelligence is an energy, it's a material energy. So he's the source of that energy. And each of us gets the ability to use it depending upon what body we are within. For example, just like in a studio apartment, there are certain amenities. In a one-bedroom apartment, there are certain amenities. In a penthouse, there's a whole different set of amenities. It depends on what apartment you're occupying, is that whether you get these amenities or not. So according to karma, if you are qualified, look at your credit rating, karma credit rating, bad score, only studio please. Your karma's credit rating is pretty good. Hey, you can, and you have the dough, you can take the penthouse.
So by the penthouse and studio you mean like dog or human? Or
Dog or human, or even within human, capacity for intelligence, capacity for mental abilities, capacity for, different people have different gifts.
Right.
So they're all somewhere, one bedroom, two bedroom, penthouse, by the sea, nice view, whatever.
And so, continuing that, what is the best house?
None of the penthouse, Vaikuntha. So to get there, the human form of life is the best house. And in that human form of life, to use our mind and intelligence in the right way, then you're using the penthouse for the right reason. Suppose you're living in a penthouse and secretly you're constructing a bomb. Then you get nice 4x4 house with bars, so there's free air, ventilation, and little flush toilet in sink. From penthouse to somewhere else. So it depends on how you use the facility or the amenities.
So, like, for a person whose senses are even more limited than ours, like, for example, someone who is blind or someone who cannot hear,
Correct.
can that person, like, would it still be possible for that person to become Krishna conscious?
Yes. You want me to explain it? Okay. Spirituality is not limited to or limited by the material senses or God consciousness, because that's operating on the absolute platform. Now we are absolute beings in relative machines, bodies. So we rely on these. But the absolute being itself is fully cognizant, fully aware, ever existing and blissful. So anything that contacts us or connects us on that platform is not limited by these. So, for example, are there persons in this world who are perhaps really illiterate or elementary school dropouts? Usually people are high school dropouts, but let's say elementary school dropouts that have a doctoral degree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Film stars.
Yeah. Or leaders. They're given honorary degrees. Jay Lalita has an honorary degree. I don't know for what, but whatever. So it's an honorary degree. That means there's a special concession given, that they don't have any other qualification. But the university says, this person. Correct? So in Vedic language, we call that mercy or kripa. We may not have the qualification, but the source can say, well, I'd like to show such a person some mercy. So now what attracts that mercy is our sincerity. There's a saying, the duck that quacks the loudest gets the bread. There's this actual saying. Was that, no, whatever. Mine is missing me today. Whatever. You get the idea. I'll give you an example. Srila Prabhupada was walking in New York, and he came to Central Park. In Central Park there was a pond, and he saw some person throwing little pieces of bread to all the ducks that were assembled there. So the ducks that were close by, they were with their mouth open, anticipating a little piece of bread. There was one duck that was a little far away, was quacking loudest. So the person noticed that and threw the bread all the way there. So the idea is, our calling out, we chanted the Hare Krishna mantra. The calling out, the more earnestly we call out, the more attraction or the more attention we get of Krishna. So then we may have all our assets or tools less than suboptimal, but there's mercy.
You said that God is neutral.
Yes.
Then how this makes sense that the more you said just before that duck was
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, so the question is, you said God is neutral to all. Then why is he throwing bread to the loud quacker? So, while there is neutrality, he is also an individual. Okay? As an individual, he is also the source of all compassion and mercy. Suppose he did not do that. All your prayers are useless, right? why do we pray if He's neutral anyway? Because it makes us feel good. It's something that my grandmother taught me. There is a reason why we pray. For that neutral personality, we are trying to invoke the infinite mercy, the infinite compassionate nature as well. Remember, all these aspects exist simultaneously. Now, the reason that he will step out of neutrality and take personal interest is because I want to have a relationship with him. So there is, let's say, the president of IIT. Here's the name?
John Anderson.
John Anderson. Okay. As far as we are concerned, John Anderson is neutral to all of us. You pay your tuition, you get your whatever. You get to sit here, you get to use the lab facilities, you go to bog, something. Correct? That's neutral. But if I get to know him, if you get to know him personally, somehow or the other. Now somehow or the other is, I can either knock on his door, try to get an appointment, something. I might even get to know him, even if I have an appointment. But if someone who knows him personally, suppose his wife says, honey, you should meet this guy. The same neutral person becomes your friend. You get so much other things too. Right? So yes, there is neutrality, but then there is a whole aspect of a personal relationship. So reference is Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text 26, I think. Samoham sarva bhuteshu. Says, I am equal to all living beings. Name dvesha asti na priya. I don't have animosity or envy towards anyone, nor is anyone dear to me. And then the next line he says, Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya. However, someone who connects to me in love, mai te teshu chapyam. I am in them and they are in me. That means I am always thinking of them. So then he steps out of his neutrality for those persons who want to have a relationship with him.
Tying his thought to education. If they just hand out degrees to whoever and everybody in the world, then that humbleness and inquisitiveness and gratitude is all lost. So
The value of that degree is also
it's
lost unless you work for it. Good
so
point.
that work.
Ready for lunch? Finally. Anything else? Any other thoughts?